Well, of course, it is Good News Tuesday. And believe it or not, we have good news. We have Tesla up in the after hours enough to erase the 30 cents that it lost during the day. But I have got Nicholas Gibbs here to help me think about all the good news that's going on in the Tesla world. How you doing, Nicholas?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Listen, we're going to have a poll at the very end. I put up earlier today, and I think people are going to be shocked to find out that Elon Musk is very likely going to be a huge factor in the 2024 election cycle.
Not surprised.
Not surprised. Well, okay. So we'll look at what kind of a factor might that be. Anyway, we'll see what the poll results look like. Okay, let's talk about Gary Black took a ride today with none other than Brandon
Bradford?
Bradford Ferguson. He was over in Chicago now, and so they went out and took a little autonomous ride using V12. And so this is what he said. He says, took a mostly autonomous ride through the most difficult sections of Chicago with Brad Ferguson, courtesy of FSD 12. My conclusion, smooth, confident, generally intervention free, but gets stuck occasionally when it encounters cement trucks, semis, and road closed due to construction. It also ran a few stop signs when there was no cars coming the other way. But he says, very comfortable letting FSD version 12 ride in Chicago city traffic. So even with those caveats, he thought it was very, very comfortable. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's interesting seeing Bradford do this, you know, country tour, if you will. Um, I I actually got to drive in FSD 12 for the first time last week. Actually, last Wednesday. No, excuse me, Thursday. Um, Yeah, so I actually have a Tesla employee that that goes to my gym. He's on the energy side of things, but
Nice.
he didn't even know he had it.
Oh
Funny
my
enough,
gosh.
yeah, I had to tell him, uh, and I told him we were just talking. I asked him if he had it yet, and he's like, I'm not sure." And I was like, "Have you been using it?" He's like, "Yeah." Oh, just on the highways though. And I asked him like, "Can you change the speed on it?" And he's like, "No, that's weird that you mentioned that. I haven't been able to change the speed lately." I'm like, "You have 12." I was like, "We're not gonna leave here without going for a ride." And he's like, "Let me look at my calendar." I'm like, and I told him, "No, you didn't hear me. We're not leaving here until we go for a ride." And so we went for a ride a couple of blocks, but yeah. So, anyways, your question, my thoughts on Gary Black. I think what we're seeing in general is that FSD 12 isn't perfect, right? This is the second version. Even Omar saying that the first version was better, but right, this happens, right? They're finessing it, but what we're seeing is, I think, more important that FSD Beta 12 is solving the things that we thought were going to be the most challenging.
Yeah.
Right, we always talked about, yeah, you can get to 99.9, but then the 999, the 9999, right? Like like the little idiosyncrasies of driving, like how do we do that? And what we're seeing is 12 is doing those with ease.
Yeah.
And it's the stuff that we have already solved with 11 that it's, getting little hiccups here and there.
Yeah.
And to me, it just makes me just so optimistic about what's going to happen this year. And so hearing Gary Black say what he says, I mean, I think Gary's been a little seesawing lately emotionally, but to hear someone who is I would say lately a pretty harsh critic of Tesla
Mhm,
to
mhm.
be impressed like this, I think says a lot, says volumes. And we're seeing Bradford do this, California, Austin, New
George.
York,
Yeah.
Chicago. I mean, we're seeing it everywhere. So it, I think this is probably going to be it. Like I think this is going to be the architecture that's definitely going to get us there. It seems, I don't know. I could keep going on, but and I'll just briefly my experience.
Yes.
Um, I've been hesitant about saying too much about my thoughts on X, but what I did say was I didn't get to take it to all the places I would want to test it, but the brief time that I was in it, which is just a couple blocks of testing, extremely smooth, like
Nice.
like s- butter smooth. I mean, I use FSD 11.4.9 today. We use
Uh-huh.
it everywhere,
Uh-huh.
right? We really don't ever have interventions unless it's like construction.
Right.
That's construction parking lots. It's really the only time we intervene, and it does drive safe and everything. The only thing is it's not really smooth, but we've
Uh-huh.
kind of gotten used to it, and
Yeah.
the safety of it just overrides for us the jerkiness at times. But man, if it has the smoothness, I don't know. We're getting somewhere.
All right. Well, on another subject today, I guess the horse is already out of the barn on this one, but shouldn't Tesla have mega chargers at Tesla Berlin? And shouldn't they have, the solar system already in? Shouldn't they have been able to at least shut it down slowly, maybe even not shut it down at all? I mean, come on, you're in the business.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, right? I mean, their own disaster recovery isn't in place here. They need to get some little HA action there. Those
Yeah.
people who are in the tech world will get my jokes there. Um, but yeah, it's kind of funny, right? They need to start eating their own dog food. But I kind of get it, right? It's you'd rather sell to enterprises and companies than just hoard it for yourself. But
Yeah.
I'm sure that's going to change.
I guess I'm hoping it will change now. So Doug DeMuro has finally done his review of the Model 3. It turns out that Tesla actually loaned him one. Look at that. Now, maybe that was just a local showroom that loans them out anyway. So maybe it wasn't a special thing through the headquarters. But anyway, he went out there, said it. He gave it the highest score in the class. He said this is the very, very best car he's ever driven for getting from point A to point B. Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, is that making you think about getting one instead of the
Well,
Cybertruck?
yeah, I've already said, my situation is that we only need one car. We even sold my Volvo finally. So now I'm down to just the one Model Y. And when we get the Cybertruck, we will either sell the Model Y, or if I really feel like I want to be bothered, I'll Turo it.
Yeah. Do you have FSD on it? Did you pay
We
for
have
it outright?
FSD. We have FSD. Yeah.
Subscription or did you pay it
Yeah,
outright?
we paid for it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my only thing. Like my whole plan has been get the Cybertruck because I'm hoping they honor the FSD price from
Right.
back,
Right.
whenever. Um, but my whole thought was my Model Y, I would just turn into a robo taxi
I
and
see.
put
Okay.
that out there, and a
But
cyber truck would
that's
be the
when it is a robotaxi. Yeah, same thing
yeah,
here. It'd be a lot easier if I had that choice. If we got the Cybertruck and the robotaxi thing was happening, sure, we would turn it into a robotaxi for sure.
yeah,
But even if it isn't, I might turn it into a Turo, because you can make money on a Model
yeah.
Turo. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you have FSD on it, and
Oh
as
yeah.
FSD gets better and better, even if it's not robotaxi, eventually people are gonna be like, "Oh man!" Like
Yeah.
imagine someone like me. If I'm touring, I'm not like I wouldn't even like I don't even care about getting a Tesla. I want FSD because the
Yeah. Yeah.
safety of
Right.
it is unreal.
Yeah. Yeah. So then on the economic front, we have this quote from B of A, and they were quoted on Market Watch. While consumption trends have started to slow, we expect the US consumer to remain healthy in 2024. Investors worry that spending stops when excess savings run out, but the rundown is more likely to be a gentle slope than a cliff edge. Since consumers are not spending more on mortgages, I'm adding this. This thought came to my mind. Consumers aren't spending more on mortgages because 90% have a low rate mortgage and 40% of the homes are paid off. Since consumers aren't buying durable goods at all, well, okay, I mean, their durable goods are really getting crushed. that leaves people with a lot more money in their pocket, since wages are still going up even a little faster than inflation right now. That leaves them with, a little extra after they pay the high prices for groceries and gasoline. Do you think that those kind of things are maybe what's happening to prolong the consumer's advantage or opportunity and to continue to spend?
Um, you know, my thoughts are that I don't trust any of these numbers. Those are my thoughts. Listen, I was at a this anecdotally, anecdotal, obviously, but I was at a wedding this weekend, and people who are my age were struggling to afford hotels, were struggling to afford Airbnbs, were struggling to buy their their attire for the weekend. Where I mean, it was just like I openly discussing it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so I don't know. I think people are more squeezed than what the data is showing, and
Hmm.
I think the data is just wrong. I mean, why should I believe the data at this point? It's been wrong
Yeah.
every single time, whether it's jobs number, revisions to CPI. I mean, it's I don't know. I think something's off.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, we'll talk about some more numbers here. It says this is from the Kobesi letter. He says the prediction markets are officially expecting less than 3 interest rate cuts now. So they've gone below 3 to 2.6. It says after inflation increased for the second straight month, prediction markets see 65 basis points of cuts, according to at Kalshi, Kalshi. This is the equivalent to, like I said, 2.6 rate cuts and down sharply from the 6 rate cuts seen just 2 months ago. It's also the first time this year that markets see less rate cuts than the Fed guidance. Core inflation still at 3.8, nearly double the Fed's long-term target. Could we actually see 0 cuts in 2024? Kobesi asks.
I mean, I don't know. We have a couple smart gentlemen that I think I watched on Monday, maybe. And I think both of them now believe that there's going to be a recession coming up this year.
Who would they be? Who would those guys?
Ju- just these elder statesmen that I tend to watch here every once in a while. But they were reviewing. Oh, you know what? Must have been Saturday. They were reviewing Kathy Wood's In the Know episode, and Kathy Wood seems to think that we're going to go negative. Uh, so, so I don't know. I mean, could, could all these people be wrong? Like all these people that like look at things from a real world, real time perspective versus lagging data.
Yeah.
You know, Elon just had I forget what conference he was at, but he was speaking and he was talking about how the Fed just keeps looking the rear view mirror rather than looking forward. And I think I don't know. I mean, it's something just doesn't make sense. Something doesn't add up. I mean, this is why I've been saying on here every time that when they cut, I think they're going to cut aggressive
Because it's going
because
to be because something broke. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean, we're seeing it now. I mean, literally during the CPI or not CPI during the last Fed meeting, or no, not the Fed, the hearing with Jerome
Yeah.
Powell,
Yeah.
you have the New York bank falling apart, and he's sitting there saying everything's good.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, and we just stopped oh my goodness, the emergency
Oh,
relief
yes.
that we had for
The bank.
all of the banks,
Yeah.
the regional banks. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know you have your list right now, but just where do you stand right now? Because I was shocking to me to hear you go more into Larry's side. I think it was Saturday, saying like, "No, I'm pretty sure now that there's going to be a recession soon."
So I'm 65-35. Larry says, I think you're 70-30. So I'm 65-35 on the side that we're going to have a recession. I think that there's too many indicators that are going that direction. So, it's not totally a weighing act. Like I got 10 that say it's a recession and 3 that say it's not or anything like that. It is, having been through a bunch of them, been through 9 of them as a business owner, having written about them, studied them. Usually there's going to be a trigger. This is the thing that we don't have yet. Usually there's some kind of a trigger. And what came up in Kathy Wood's information the other day, there was two triggers there that I was unaware of. One of those was the potential big time recession hitting the residential multifamily dwelling market because of
Yeah.
a billion more units coming on this year. And the other was this inventory overhang. I had no idea that there was still a 9% inventory overhang. Those two things are pretty significant. And so then it doesn't take very much of a slowdown for some reason. Let's say the next number comes in at for employment comes in at 4% instead of 3.9, or it comes in at 4.1 the next month. Then I just did a poll the other day, and other people have been polling this. People are getting more worried about getting laid off. On the poll
Yeah.
that I did on X, 33% of the people on X said that they were worried about getting laid off this year. So when people start getting worried about getting laid off, what do? Hey, stop spending. So you get this, if you get people that actually stop spending because of fear, or they stop spending because they've run out of funds, or they stop spending because their credit card thing's getting out of whack, doesn't matter why they stop. But when you already have those overhangs that I just mentioned, then you could have a very fast, things could collapse rapidly.
Yeah, absolutely right. The march upwards is slow and treacherous and difficult. Coming down,
Yeah.
very easy. Very easy.
Well, on that subject, if we really do still have 3% inflation, which is what the CPI is telling us, what the PCE is telling us, we're still at 3%. And if everybody agrees, even if they don't think we're going to go into a recession, if everybody agrees we're going to get close, that it's going to be a soft landing, that we're probably going to be growing at 0.5% or 1%, is it too soon to start using the stagflation word?
I mean, maybe, maybe not. It seems like there's a lot of agreement right now. Nobody knows. People that you hear, saying that we're going to go into recession. You hear another two people saying that, it's just going to take a little more time. Right now, I think what's saving the markets is the fact that the Fed is saying that, it's just higher for longer, and they're not saying that they need to raise rates more to fight,
Right.
stagflation. Where are you at in this? Do
Oh
you think we're
boy.
in stagflation?
No, I think the inflation numbers are nuts. That's what I think. I'm looking at everything that I'm looking at. I mean, not just Trueflation, which sometimes I agree with and sometimes I don't on some of their analysis, but I look at their numbers, but I know that their numbers are backed up. I've got a lot of background in real estate. I've written a couple of books on real estate, and the rentals are not at 5% a year up. They're about 1% or less up. You can look at Zillow and Redfin and Chase Schiller and all these different people. They've got the numbers, and that those numbers they have on rents are crazy. So
Let, let me put you on the spot here. I know CPI came out this morning. I saw the headline number, but I didn't have a chance to look into it because I was coming back from a wedding. That 5% you're referring to, was that in the CPI today?
it was in the
The five
CPI
percent
0.5% month over month increase in rents. That's 6% a year on
Yeah.
an annualized basis. So
Okay. And did anyone do the calculation to back that out? See what it looks like without it?
yeah, actually, the funny thing was they do have this other one they call the core. So
Core, yeah.
you have core, which is taking out energy and food, and then you have core, which takes out housing also. And on core, it was up badly. So that seemed, I don't know what that was reflecting. They were showing that there was increases in things like um, uh, what do you call it? Recreation, which actually the Trueflation people are saying is dropping like a rock. So I don't know. It was I can't really see why all these numbers are so completely wacko right now. It's just odd.
It is odd because this should be a very easy data problem. very easy, and somehow we're making it difficult. But I don't know. Something weird's going on. Just like the unemployment numbers, I'm telling you, it's just not adding up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've seen, of course, some of that information coming out yesterday when I was Larry last night. And when Larry and I were talking about last night, we saw those numbers where the last time we've had these kind of revisions in the unemployment numbers was 2008.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Yeah, don't tell you that.
Are you serious?
That's seriously true. 2008 was the last time you saw a 250 or $150,000 reduction in the total unemployment number. So, yeah, yeah,
It's every month. It's every month, Randy.
I know for months and months and months in a row. And again,
Yeah.
it turns out that that's another
Precursor.
signal. It's another
Yeah.
signal, you know. Okay, Market Watch says that the U.S. federal budget deficit widened to $296 billion in January, up from $262 billion in the same month last year. Apparently, it is seasonal. I didn't have time to go look at all the seasonality involved here. The Fed, see, that would $296 billion. That would be $3.6 trillion per year. And the federal government is only expecting 1.7 trillion. So this must be a really tough month before much more money going out and the receipts aren't coming in or whatever. But man, 296 billion in one month.
Yeah. That's not good.
For the first
Tax the billionaires.
For the first 5 months of the fiscal year, the deficit widened to 828 billion, up from 723 billion over the same period last year. Outlays increased for defense spending, and yet Biden's budget for next year only increases defense spending by 1%. And to refill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, according to the Congressional Budget Office. In February, government receipts rose slightly while spending increased at a faster pace, which is always not a good thing. Interest on the federal debt was 127 billion higher over the first 4 months of the fiscal year than in the same period a year earlier. The Federal Reserve's rapid increase in interest rates is leading to higher. No, yeah, we know that, of course. Big picture. In the short term, the Congressional Budget Office projected a roughly 1.5 trillion deficit this year that ends on September 30th, down from 1.7 trillion. Oh, I see. I got that wrong. Last year was 1.7, and they're saying it'll drop to 1.5. I don't see how they get there. It seems like they would have to have really, really low spending and high receipts between now and October. Holy mackerel.
Wait, hold on. Did I hear that correctly? We're running at a 3 trillion something deficit, and they're saying we're going to be down to 1.7, 1.5?
Yeah, you could say the main thing would be that the deficit so far year to date is at 567. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Receipts. I'm sorry. Those are outlays. Let me go back. For the first 5 months, 828 billion for the first 5 months. So that would be averaging about almost 1.5, almost 150 billion per month. No, more than that, 160 something billion. And somehow we're going to get through 12 months at only 1.5 trillion. So maybe again, I didn't look at the seasonality. So there must be some seasonal issues coming up. Anyway,
it's a problem.
Nothing's going to happen until next year, so there's no use fretting about it. Okay, here's the poll. I've kept everybody waiting. For the past couple of weeks, I've been thinking that Elon Musk might be the most influential political figure in the United States. I've just started looking at the things that he's been pointing to, and then when he points to them, all of a sudden they start going away. ESG, DEI, the president of Harvard, things like that. He says, hey, look over here, and kaboom, all of a sudden something's happening on it. Of course, he's got 160 million followers on X, and he's got he's an influential guy. But anyway, so I wondered how many people have actually been moved by Elon, actually been influenced in a political direction by Elon. So I ran a poll. Now, there's nothing scientific about my poll. Okay, this is a poll on X.com. They are very likely to be followers of Tesla, because they would be, people that are interested in what I'm talking about. So you ready? 2/3 of those polled said that Elon had no effect at all on their political thinking. 2% said that they had caused, because of Elon, they've moved leftward. Over 30% said they had been influenced to move toward the right. I think that's massive. I
Yeah.
don't think you find anybody anywhere that has that kind of influence. And it's even kind of hard to compute the potential if there's any part of that that is filtering into the entire system, the entire political system. I have a couple of ideas of why I think he's so influential besides just the numbers. What do you think?
I I think that it's not so much of a like obviously he's influential, right? But I think the bigger thing is that a lot of people have stayed the same, but the parties have changed. And I think that's what it is. I mean, he put up a video the other day of a speech of Obama talking about immigration,
Right.
talking about the illegals here will have to pay a fine. They'll have to get to the back of the line. They'll have to essentially show their worth, whatever, and then they can try to apply for citizenship. But we can't have people coming in illegally. We have to have a border, all that. This is Obama saying this.
Right.
If you, that same rhetoric today is seen as extreme alt right,
Right.
anti-immigrant, and it's like so. Is it that all these people are moving to the right, or is it that the Democrats have just rebranded their entire party away from common sense? You know, love him, hate him, or whatever about Obama. That's very common sense. And in fact, back then, the real debate was no, you know, from the right was saying no, Obama, deport them. They're here illegally. There shouldn't be a pathway. Just like otherwise, everybody's going to try to come here illegally. And it's like, oh well, I'll pay my fine and whatever. That was the argument.
Right.
Now, now the argument's like, no, everybody should be able to come in. We shouldn't have a border. We should all just kumbaya and everything's going to be fine. No voter IDs needed. Let's just, you know, like, I mean, if you drink, that's different. But for voting and selecting the president, like, no, we shouldn't. Everybody should have the right to even if you're illegal, you should have the right to vote for who our president is. You know, but if you want a cigarette, though, give me your ID. You know,
Right.
it's so. What is it? Is it that people are moving to the right? Is it that the right has become a little more opening of the aperture to that's inviting people in, just essentially having more common sense? And then the Democrats, I don't know. I think it's more so Elon's calling, bringing the attention to this, saying like, guys, it's not. I'm not the crazy one here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Okay. Well, so I have this thought about Elon. I mentioned it, of course, in the Elon Musk method, that he is a consummate communicator. He's a visionary who casts visions. That's what a leader does. So he sees the future, he casts a future vision, and then he says, here's my vision. Think about this. So that's clear communication. I think he's very transparent. He's very, you don't think, oh, he's hiding something or he's, trying to do something different than what he says. Most people think of him as transparent. Even when they disagree with him, they think he's transparent. And he does it in a pithy way. He
Yes.
doesn't take a lot of words. Okay. And I think that's what's really happening, because when leaders do that effectively, then end up having followers. And that's what he's done in business. He says, look, we need to do these kinds of things for the future. If the future of the world's going to be any good, we really need to not spend so much of our time drilling for oil. Let's use that nuclear reactor in the sky, and he's got these easy, simple ways. He repeats them over and over again.
Yeah.
And I just think he's doing the same thing right now in politics. And I have a sneaky suspicion it's impacting much broader, much wider, much more than people even think about. A lot of people think he's dangerous because of his influence, but I think it's even more subtle and maybe more impactful than people think.
I think you're spot on. absolutely spot on. He's bringing attention to these things, and he has a voice of influence. And you're right, he has a way of distilling things down into a couple words that are catchy, tend to be funny, and are just spot on, right? It's so logical that it's hard to disagree with. And if you do disagree with it, you know, people who I would say are more logical and just kind of level headed are like, okay, um, I don't know about you, right? Like you're not someone who's thinking for yourself, which is ironic because I sound like I'm just listening to what Elon said. I'm taking his words in. Is it logical to make this party this and that's it? That's my ideology. But yeah, no, I think you're spot on.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad for once I'm spot on here. Okay, that's good. I don't mean that you don't think so.
You're always spot on.
Some of my co-hosts don't always think that I'm spot on. I don't know who that would be.
Larry.
No name dropping here. Okay, so anything you want to add to today's session? Any thoughts you had or stuff that you saw today that I missed?
Um, yeah, actually, it looks like FSD
Oh,
12.3
yeah.
might be rolling out.
It is.
I,
It
I
is. Yes.
I've only seen one person mention
Yeah,
they
I
had it.
know.
Yeah, and I guess Elon said this should be called FSD 13.
Yes, that was my headline this morning, actually. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I thought that was interesting. So that caught my attention. CPI definitely caught my attention. Just I don't know how to make sense of any of this. It's I don't know. You're seeing the rest of the world struggle, and you would think all that deflation would make its way here, and I'm sure it is. Yet somehow I'm supposed to believe that we are spending so much that all that deflation means nothing.
Yeah.
In fact, prices keep going up despite all that deflation. Like it just doesn't. And then Costco has a bad quarter. Like it's I don't know. It's just not. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I know well, okay, so the inflation that we definitely see is housing. The inflation that we definitely know is happening is that wages are still the data seems to be pretty good on wages, that wages are still going up a little bit more than the Fed wants them to. So that is providing some spending power. But those are kind of and insurance. So car insurance in particular, homeowners insurance a little bit also, but car insurance in particular. These are things, but they can be explained. It's kind of like
Yeah.
transition thing that Powell was talking about 2 years ago. The housing thing, it's not a transition, but it's not going to go away because of Fed. It's just not going to go away. There's just not enough housing, and until we start building more. But we saw what happened with apartments. So rents were going like this. So the market comes in and builds a jillion apartments. And now rents are flat and going downhill. And now a million more units coming. And it's going to destroy the rental market next year. Well, that's how capitalism works, And yes, some people get hurt on the downside, but that's where you take the risk in business. So we need to have that happen in housing, but I don't know what the stimulus is going to be to get people to get out there and start building some housing.
Yeah. I don't think you can hold up cutting rates just because of housing. If anything, it's an oxymoron.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. If you want to fix the housing problem, you're gonna have to cut rates. And yes, that will mean that prices will go up, but that will mean that people will put more supply out there,
There you
which
go.
will eventually
Right.
eventually create a equilibrium. But it's not gonna happen without rates coming down.
No.
It's the delta's too big. It's
Yep.
way too big.
No question about it. Well, okay, we've got Tesla up 41 cents in the after hours, beating the negative 23 from earlier in the day. So I'm going to count that as a green day. We have got, by the way, there's a lot of charting going on right now that's showing that, and I'm not a chartist, I don't understand it. Well, I understand some of it, but the charts are showing that Tesla's poised. for an upward move. So we'll see if that turns out to be true. We have got bonds in the pre-market down 1 basis point at 41.45. So pretty much the bond market was right about what came out on the CPI today. They didn't move a ton as a result of the CPI. Now the 2-month and all the short-termers are going the opposite direction. They're all up. So I've said it so often that I feel funny even repeating it yet again, that it makes no sense. And why in the world is it happening that way? Oil. See what's happening with oil. We have got oil. I should have just said $78. I mean, it's been there for days, not moving at all. It's actually $77.94. But natural gas, unchanged. Dollar says it's advancing after firmer than expected inflation data, but I look at the numbers here and I don't see that it's I don't see that the headline really is quite equal to the information. Gold staying at right 2164, almost no change. Copper, no change. Okay, and then Bitcoin today is down, but still at 71,397. So still very close to its all-time high. Any thoughts on Bitcoin right now? You know more about it than I do, I think. Oh no, I know. Everybody knows more about it.
No, my only thing is it's gonna be interesting to see this on Tesla's earnings.
There you go. All right. Oh, listen, on the pre-market, on the equities, just count it. I don't even have to go through the list. It's like, you could almost put an unchanged on each one. It's so close to unchanged. So nothing happening on the equities in the pre-market right now. Well, okay. I think we've had a fun session. I hope everybody enjoyed it. We've got to the audience out there, Brian White and I did a session today at around lunchtime. You can go back and check it out. We were talking about the humanoid bot business and all the different aspects of what's going on right now, the different competitors, what they're doing, the kind of way that things are moving together. This company might be a little ahead here, another company a little ahead here. Everybody's watching everybody. It's moving very, very rapidly. I'm going to put a card right up here because I think you should go watch that. But quite frankly, you could also, tomorrow, Scott will be on about the same time, around the noon hour. And Scott has got some breaking news in the robotics area. Of course he does.
Oh, what a tease.
I know. We're just going to get them coming on. We got to keep the folks coming to the show, It is actually, we're way over double last February and still in March so far, way over double last March. So I'm very happy with the numbers happening on the program. And it's got to be because of you. I mean, I can't explain it.
Definitely not that.
All right. And Nicholas, thank you so much, as always, for coming on and helping me get through all this and co-hosting the show on Tuesday nights. And to all of you folks out there, it's been great talking to you.
Cheers.